Before the arenas, before the awards.
This is b4Nashville Live. Have a question for a guest? Send it to us via Messenger.
Here's your host, George Davis.
And welcome back to Before Nashville, where we introduce the country stars of tomorrow to the country fans of today. And I've got a young lady joining me tonight. She been, I guess, back in music for a little bit. We were just talking earlier. She did some other things in the meantime, and some things happened, and we'll discuss all that. And then we're going to check out the latest song that she's got out, and we'll do that coming up in 30 seconds.
Before Nashville is proudly sponsored by Go-Go Tuners, the go-to tuner for professional and amateur musicians. Get your Go-Go Tuner at gogotuners.com. By Heart to Heart Coffee, the coffee that gives back. Find out more at heart2heartcoffee.com. By Cibby's Apparel, worn by heroes, made with respect. Order yours at cibby'sapparel.com. And by Three Rangers Whiskey, not for the weak or faint-hearted. ThreeRangers.com.
All right, and tonight I found out about this young lady from her publicist who happened to reach out to me and asked me some questions, and I did some research and found out about our guest tonight, and told her publicist, said, absolutely, let's get her on. So please welcome Annie Vander. Annie, how are you?
Hi, good. How are you? Thanks for having me, George.
Hey, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Oh,
So,
of course, yes.
let's just start off by talking a little bit about you, where you're originally from, where you grew up, how life was in the big city, small town, whichever one you were in at the time.
Oh my gosh. So I grew up in Evergreen Park, Illinois, which is pretty much south side of Chicago. So it's kind of big city, I would say. Our house was technically 3 doors away from Chicago proper. So growing up, I always thought, oh, I'm in this little town of Evergreen Park, because it's a smaller suburb. But now I actually live in Yorkville, Illinois, which is about a little over an hour out of Chicago. Depending on traffic, sometimes you can make it in under an hour. But there's a lot of corn and cows out here, so I would say I'm in more of a small town now. So yeah, lesson learned. I was definitely not in a small town growing up.
So what about going to school? I mean, did music come to you while you were in school, or was it something that you've got into later on? Some people have done it in college, some even after college. When did music become a part of your life?
So music for me, I don't know, I was thinking about this, different interviews and stuff that I've done too. It's like, I had this flashback actually last week. It's like, when did all this start? And do you remember the movie Annie from way back when, the redheaded? Yeah. So I remember trying to just belt out, the sun will come out tomorrow. That was horrible, by the way. And but I was like, yeah, I always liked that. And I would just, any song, any catchy song, I was always trying to sing it better than whoever, or as good, or I would just always look up to that. And then in grade school, there were musicals and choir and all the things, and I did that. I never had a lead part or anything in choir or the musicals in grade school. But I also picked up clarinet. I was in band, and then I played. So clarinet was my main instrument, and then I'd be like, okay, I got enough of this. Not that I ever put it down, but I'd want to pick up something else. So I picked up trumpet for a bit, saxophone for a bit. So I was always dabbling in something. So music's been a huge part of my life ever since I can remember.
Was there music in the home when you were growing up?
I was the only musician per se in the direct household, my immediate family. My mom, though, that said I always wondered why she never did anything with music, because I always thought she had the voice of an angel. She would just do her chores around the house. She's a very Christian woman, and she would turn on whatever modern Christian songs were on, and she just would sing her heart out. And like, I was just always blown away at how good she was. But she was content to sing at home, and it just singing just made her happy. So I had that to look up to. But then when I got older, and now that I'm really digging into music a lot more, I'm finding out my grandfather, my dad's dad, was in a traveling country band. And I'm like, oh, well, this is interesting. I didn't know this while he was alive. I was just gifted my great grandmother's violin. I guess she was born in 1901. And she played violin in like the early 1900s, so in her teenage years. So that may be like anywhere between like 1915 to 1919. So I'm actually in the middle of having that restored right now. And yeah, so it's little bits, bits and pieces like that. So I guess it's in the blood, but I never knew it until now. So
Right.
yeah.
So did you get in, were you doing any kind of performance music when you were in high school other than school stuff? I mean, were you, had you figured out by that time you wanted to learn to play guitar? You wanted to learn to write songs, any of that stuff?
So I never, even up until a couple years ago, I never thought it would even be possible to write my own songs, which is crazy. And then here I ended up with two that I wrote by myself, which is nuts. And then anyway, no, to answer your question, I would say that I didn't perform outside of high school. I wanted to, but I never felt good enough, if that makes any sense. So I never really found the confidence to do it outside of that.
Okay. Well, who would you count as musical influences for you?
Oh, goodness. As far as country goes, Shania Twain for sure. In the 90s, she's the one, like so many, she crossed me right over into country. And I kept growing up in the city of Chicago too. I was like, I don't like country. I'm trying to tell myself, I don't like country. I'm never going to be a country girl. And then I'm like, darn it, I like this song. Oh, and I like this one too. And then I'd listen to something else. I'm like, oh, this isn't even Shania Twain. Like, so Shania Twain for sure. And some of the more current ones, I'd say like probably Maren Morris. And then people that aren't country, I love Tom Petty, because I like to put a lot of rock, like I like to mix genres together. If you've heard my song, I feel like it's like the one that's out now. I feel like it's a mixture of different genres. I love Tom Petty. I love 90s rock. I love Fleetwood Mac. I'm really all over the map. So I feel like I pull influences from all over the place. If that makes sense.
What was the first concert that you ever attended?
Oh my gosh, it was a Christian concert. It was a Christian rock band called Petra. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. Mainstream, it was Bon Jovi. So I'm dating myself a little bit, but yes, it was Bon Jovi, and it was amazing. So I absolutely loved it.
I've seen Bon Jovi too, so I'm dating myself as well.
Hey, the music was good. The music was good. And I remember it's funny too, because I was not allowed to listen to a lot of mainstream music growing up. My parents were very, very strict. It was, even on TV, we were allowed to watch the Disney Channel, Mother Teresa, and the Weather Channel. And that was it. And so, a lot of pop culture questions, like as I got older too, people like, don't you know this? And don't you know that? And be like, no. So, yeah. So when I actually first went to my first concert that was a mainstream artist, I was like, oh, wow. First I'm like, am I gonna get in trouble for this? I felt like I was doing something really bad, but I'm like, this is just so much fun. So, yeah.
Oh, that's good though. So on the writing side of things, you said you just started writing a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
A lot of the writing that you do you do it like by yourself, or do you co-write with someone?
So I just did my first co-write. The two songs that I have out and released so far, I did write those by myself. The first one was about the journey I took after I lost my mother. And then the second one, Falling into Nashville, is all about really how I literally and figuratively fell into Nashville and how I'm here talking to you now. And and the one about my mom, it literally, like, the melody and it was a lesson that I was working on with a teacher I started working with over Zoom during COVID. And I remember reaching out to him and saying, because he's like, what do you want to accomplish with these lessons? And I said, not that there's anything wrong with singing other people's music. And I told him, like, my history, like, I play clarinet, I play a lot of other wind instruments. I said, I need to learn an instrument where I can accompany myself. And I really want to start digging into songwriting. And, I'd like to learn how to start writing my own music. And so he had me just toying around with some chords. And I started humming this melody. And then the story, like, just everything I was feeling, it just fell out of my mouth. And there was a song 20 minutes later. That one was the fastest one for sure. Falling into Nashville, I woke up with a melody to the chorus in my head, and it was at like 1 a.m. or midnight or something like that. And I remember going down to my keyboard. I'm like, I better record this, because if I forget it, I'm gonna be really upset. And I've done that a lot, where I'm just like, even recently, it's like, I've got this great idea. There's no way I'm gonna forget it, and then it's like right out the brain. So yeah, any songwriters listening, don't ever not hit the record button.
Right.
Yeah, so I had that, and I just kind of figured, like, the verses I played with and changed those for, I don't know, almost a year, I would say. And then went to my producer, and I told him the vision I had for it, and he just really helped make this song what it is and made it come to life. Because I wrote it on piano, and I said, his name is David Norris, and he's an amazing guy, amazing producer. He's an amazing friend. And he, I said, this is a guitar song, and he just took it to a whole new level. So yeah. But anyway, I totally veered off. I derailed there. Sorry.
That's okay. No problem.
Yeah, but I did my first co-write with him just 2 weeks ago. And we wrote 3 songs together. One's a Christmas song that I'm gonna rush down and get in the studio and get that cut, and hopefully get it on streaming platforms before the holiday season. Yeah, and a couple more to come. So it was fun co-writing, just bouncing the ideas off each other and stuff like that. I had a blast.
Right. So now you're going into your music career, but prior to that, I mean, we talked a little bit off camera about this, but you had another career, another avenue you thought you were going to go down, but there was a setback. And I kind of want you to share that, and I'll tell you why I want you to share that after you get through your story there.
Yeah. So yeah, I was in the veterinary field for about 20 years. I worked as a vet tech, and as I was working as a veterinary technician, I went off and started my own business. I took care of special needs pets and regular pets too, just dog walking, pet sitting. I became a certified dog trainer, and I had a handful of girls working for me. And my husband and I had moved out. We were not all the way out in Yorkville, but we were already further out of the city, and I was rezoning the business and things like that. So it was pretty much just me rezoning in the area at that time. And we were leaving for a Southern Caribbean cruise. It was 60 below here in Chicago, very cold. So that Southern Caribbean cruise sounded amazing. It had already been canceled the year before because there were storms, just like, and I feel so bad for the people in Fort Myers right now. But yeah, there were storms that had devastated some islands, so we had to cancel that. So then I fell and shattered my wrist on the ice. So needless to say, our cruise didn't happen, but they had to rebuild my wrist. And we were going to travel with friends, and called, they go, "Where's Ann?" And Brian said, he tells them, "She broke her arm." And they're like, "Oh, you're kidding. That's hilarious." I'm like, "No, she really did." So the recovery didn't go like it should have. I should have recovered in 6 to 8 weeks. I ended up developing a neurologic disorder. So I was out of work for a year, almost a year, I should say. In the meantime, lost my business. I had to close shop with the pet stuff. I ended up getting a job at a door and window company, and they've been super supportive, and they're great people over there. I love everybody that I work with. But when COVID hit, I feel like my accident almost prepped me for staying home during COVID. But I had time, and I had a little bit of time just at home. And that's when I decided I had a number or email address for an artist coach in Nashville, just kind of kept in my hypothetical back pocket. And I'm like, I'm going to reach
Right.
out to, his name is Paul Lyman, and he's a great music coach. And that's when I told him, I said, you know what, I want to dig into songwriting, and I've been a musician, and I just want to see where, I don't know, pick it up again and see where I can go with it. I never dreamed I would have a song on the radio and all this stuff, and I never in a million years. So yeah, that's kind of, it's crazy, and that's what this, that new song is all about. Literally and figuratively fell back into music, and I feel like music is where I've been meant to be, and it was kind of, I don't know, some people would just, it's cliche or whatever, but I mean, one door closed, a bunch of doors closed on me, and it just kind of pushed me right back to where I needed to be. So.
Right. Yeah. Now your accident, and I was reading earlier about the condition that you had that afterwards that took you so long, and it's known or called like a suicide syndrome or something, because the pain gets so unbearable for people who develop this.
Yeah.
And with everything that you did afterwards, I mean, in music, if you're playing piano, if you're playing guitar, you're playing clarinet, whatever you're playing, you're going to use your wrist and your hands a lot.
Yeah.
And so had to be a lot of perseverance and even struggle during that time, I'm sure.
Well, during the recovery, and I guess I kind of skipped over that part, there's just so much that happened in that time, and sometimes it's hard to put it all in, like a short,
Right.
But I guess I remember telling my husband, it was maybe right after my surgery, or maybe it was even on the way home from the hospital before the surgery even, I said, I swear if I can't play my clarinet again, I'm going to be so upset. He goes, you haven't touched that thing in like 10 years. Why do you care? And I'm like, well, because every once in a while, I like to just pick it up because it was always like therapy to me. So my husband and I, we have a huge Halloween party every single year. And we like to entertain a lot. Well, we had a karaoke machine in the house for fun, for parties. So when I was at home during recovery and therapy and things like that, I would just bust that thing out and I would sing to the walls and my dogs. And honestly, it became like distraction therapy. And, in hindsight, that is what it was. So one thing that helps with, it's chronic regional pain syndrome, and it is nicknamed the suicide disease because of the level of pain. They say that there's nothing any more painful, not childbirth, cancer treatments, like anything. And it's hard for me to believe that nothing else, it was horrible. It was horrible. I am in remission though, so knock on wood on that screen. And a lot of people are not diagnosed on time. And that's key to getting to a remission point. That's one important step. And also finding a therapist who can help treat you properly. So I was very fortunate on so many levels. But in hindsight, we do think my mom may have had the same thing. And she technically died from a pulmonary embolism, but she shattered her shoulder, and I don't remember what the upper bone in your arm is called, but she had plates and screws and all the hardware, and it was just a sharp decline, and 5 years later she was gone. But it's like all the signs were there. But yeah, when I went to therapy, I remember the therapist, I would come in and he's like, how you doing today? And I'm like, my arm hurts, or this is happening. He goes, but the sun is out, and there's this and there's that. And he's just like, but you walked in, and he was always just so like, you really got to focus on what's good. And it was that, distraction therapy and stuff like that. But singing stimulates the vagus nerve. And that's actually really important in, with people with the condition too. And so I unintentionally was, I don't know, it was therapy for myself, and I didn't even realize it.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. So what if you could describe something unique about your music to somebody who wants to listen to you, like what makes it so unique that it draws people in from your standpoint?
I think with me, and I like to tell, I mean, I like to try to keep things just, I mean, they're very true. Usually it's just a timestamp of my life, and I try to make it relatable so anybody can relate to it. And I know there is a lot of music like that out there, but I also have no idea what's going to come out of my mouth next sometimes. So I don't know what kind of song I'm going to write next. So it's going to be country with some sort of a different genre mixed up in, the blender with it. And, so I would think just, it's going to be, sometimes it'll be sassy, sometimes it'll be sad, sometimes, so yeah, probably, I think I'll just keep people guessing. So,
Right. There you go. There you go.
yeah.
Um, is is there a song that you've ever heard that you go, I really wish I'd have wrote that song?
I would have wrote it. There's probably more than I can think of off the top of my head right now. One that comes to mind is The House That Built Me. Miranda
Mhm.
Lambert sings it, and I have to admit, I don't know who wrote it. I don't know if it was her or somebody else. But that song just hits home to me like every single time I hear it. I don't know. So yeah, that one is probably one of the top ones. And I don't know if that was ever like a number one song or anything like that. I don't know. It just feels, I relate to it so much that I'm just like, wow, yeah. I don't know.
Right.
That
Right.
makes any sense.
It's a great song. Miranda didn't write it. I know that for sure. I can't tell you the writer off the top of my head. I want to say, I feel like if I say the name, I'm talking about her mom. So I don't want to say the name because that's her mom's name. And it did go, I believe it did go to number one, or it got in the top 5 anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know that for sure. So if you could go out on tour, say you've got your career going, things are looking good, you've got people looking at you to go on tour with them. If you could go out on tour with 2 artists, who would it be?
Keith Urban is right at the top. I think he's
Mm-hmm.
a brilliant musician. And I'm always, and one of them is, I don't think I know he's done a song with Pink, because I love the, and again, not country. Pink and Lady Gaga are both right there, but I think they're both just really strong vocal women, and they're just, and I would love to do like a collaboration with, so if I had to pick, I would probably say Lady Gaga and Keith Urban, and then
Okay.
yeah, so
Yeah.
keep it interesting.
We don't follow that. We don't keep that question into a specific genre. I mean, you can split it up into whatever.
Okay.
I've not had anybody say Snoop Dogg yet, but I am waiting.
Oh my gosh, that would actually probably be hilarious.
Yeah, I'm sure it would.
I don't know if I can keep up.
I know, right? Let me see here. Okay, if I were to look at your playlist on your phone,
Oh my
who
goodness.
would you say are the top? I'll go with the top 5 artists that you're listening to.
Keith Urban is on there. Top 5 artists. Oh my gosh, there's so many. Tom Petty is still on there. Oh my gosh, Maren Morris for sure. So, and I noticed now, like in the interview, a lot of these names are repeating themselves, so it's obvious who my influences are. Yeah.
Just solidifying the influences is what we're doing.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Kelsey Ballerini is another one, and Miranda Lambert.
Okay.
So, those are the top ones. So
All right.
100. So except for Tom Petty.
Except for Tom Petty. Have you got to play out much since COVID has kind of scaled back?
So
Are you doing shows?
yeah, I am. I've been doing. So it's funny. So I haven't really played out a whole lot even before COVID because I picked music back up during COVID.
Right.
So I feel fortunate in the fact that I was a musician that wasn't canceled per se. It actually sparked my career, which is fun. I feel bad for the people who, lost out on that time. But yeah, I actually headed up an open mic out in our neighborhood. So I do that once a month. And then I've been playing a few venues just in the neighborhood here. I'm actually going to play at the House of Blues in Chicago on October 16th.
Wow.
So that'll be a first for me. I'm excited about that. Yeah, so I mean, I haven't played a ton, but I've got some exciting stuff coming up. So yeah.
All right. Well, what's your favorite cover song to do when you are playing out?
My Church by Maren Morris. I just love that song. It's my church music. Roll the windows down and turn up that highway FM. It's just, I don't know. For me, it's like if I was upset, from when I was a kid, the minute I could start driving, you get in the car, you crank up the tunes and you just,
Right. Exactly. So. Just get it all out of your head.
Yeah.
We've got a song. I've got a song that I received. It's your latest single. You talked about it some. It's called Fall Into Nashville. Let's take a quick break here. We'll listen to it. We'll share it with everybody, let them hear it, and then we'll come back and kind of talk about it and get the backstory and things like that on it. Is that okay?
Sure.
All right. So we'll be right back with Annie. It's Annie Vander on b4Nashville, and her song Fall Into Nashville is coming up next.
b4Nashville is proudly sponsored by Go-Go Tuners, the go-to tuner for professional and amateur musicians. Get your Go-Go Tuner at gogotuners.com. By Heart to Heart Coffee, the coffee that gives back. Find out more at heart2heartcoffee.com. By Sibby's Apparel, worn by heroes, made with respect. Order yours at sibby'sapparel.com. And by Three Rangers Whiskey, not for the weak or faint-hearted. ThreeRangers.com.
The day was finally here, and all looked crystal clear to everyone but me. I just couldn't see. The signs were everywhere, and I just didn't care. So life had knocked me down, and God turned my path around, and I fell into Nashville, found my soul singing loud, don't care who's in the crowd. And I fell into Nashville, I found my soul singing here, so everyone can hear. So I laid there with my heart, it was shattered all apart. I could have wallowed in that sea for all eternity, but I strapped up my boots and I dug in my roots. Had to find a brand new way to get through the day. And I fell into Nashville, I found my soul singing loud, won't care who's in the crowd. And I fell into Nashville, I found my soul singing here, so everyone can hear. When I've got me down, I get up off the ground. I'm so grateful for the day that things didn't go my way. Come on! two were true that came along for the ride while I found my stride. Now I sing from my heart. I should have done it from the start. A new version of me, and now I'm finally free. Right here in Nashville, right here in Nashville. Found the soul singing loud, won't care who's in the crowd. Right here in Nashville, right here in Nashville. I rushed off my fear, now my destination's clear. 'Cause the soul's singing here for everyone to hear.
All right, that's Annie Vander and Fell into Nashville. That is her latest single. And tell me a little bit about the song. I mean, where you kind of alluded to the fact of where it came from, but how did you come up with the whole feel of it and everything else?
So, like I said, it was I don't know where the melody came from, but I literally like jumped out of bed in the middle of the night, and I had it like probably because the whole accident, and I'm working on music, and I was just had that mission of like, okay, let's write another song, let's write another, so I had the chorus, and then I'm like, okay, let's tell the story about how I got back into music. So when I first like started writing the verses, one of them was, and it wouldn't be relatable. So one of the tasks with it is like, I want to tell my story, but I need to make it so anybody can relate to it. Like a 16-year-old going through a breakup, or an adult going through a divorce, or losing a house, or burning out, or whatever it is. So one of them, so like with me, even though I love my business and I love the animals, I was at a point where I was starting to burn out, and and it probably was time for me to do something else. So one of the verses that stuck that I ended up with, the signs were everywhere and I just didn't care. So life, it knocked me down and God turned my path around. That can apply to so many different things, at least in my brain, it can. Like, so it's,
Right.
You could be with somebody bad in a relationship, and it could be like everyone else sees those red flags, but you, right? Or you see them and you choose to ignore them. So sometimes life will close the door on you and it forces you to go another way. For me, it happened when I fell down and broke my wrist. But one of the first verses, I had it just for like a placeholder. It was going to be that I fell down and broke my wrist, then came life's biggest plot twist. So that was going to be, that's what was sitting there. I'm like, how do I make this? And I was so stuck on that line forever. Because I'm like,
Right.
Everyone's going to break their wrist, So there was that. So the chorus, fell into Nashville, found my soul singing loud, won't care who's in the crowd. So when you're in your car, or you're in the shower, and you're in your kitchen and no one's there, you just like, I don't know, before I really cared, if people could hear me or not, I'd be like, I don't care if I sound good, bad, or whatever. I just let it all out, right? So,
Right.
And I love it when I come home, I know my husband's listening, but like when we had that karaoke machine and I used to bust him when I would come home from work and he's singing away, he's like, whoop. It was so much fun. So find your soul and sing it loud. Find what you need to in music, right? Because I want the song to just celebrate music, and whether you have to find something happy, sad, or whatever it is you need. Won't care who's in the crowd. Find your soul, sing it here so everyone can hear. And then then I get to the point like, you know what? I don't care. You know what? Let the world hear my story. So that's what that's about. So then when you get into verse 2, it's like, I laid there with my heart. It was shattered all apart. I could have wallowed in that sea for all eternity, but I strapped up my boots and dug in my roots. So it's like when I would go into therapy, right? It's like you can either, and with anything in life, again, you can choose to focus on the good, or you can focus on all the bad stuff. And I'm like, no, screw this. I'm going to, we're going to do something really, really good. And, with this, instead of focusing on the bad. So that's what I want people to take from the song. And then at the end, I brushed off my fear, and I found my soul singing here so everyone can hear. So it's like, I don't know. So you just, the song is just about celebrating life in general and staying positive and keeping that smile on your face.
Right. Right. It's a very, it's very I like the tempo of it because you're kind of one of those, I guess, like you're talking about Maren Morrison. She says, and I think it's her song "My Mercedes" talks about being an '80s baby.
Yep.
And, with that, it's like a '90s baby. It's like you're so. It's just got that '80s. Actually, it's got more of the '80s feel than the '90s. It's kind of like a. Yeah, it's kind of like a the Go-Go's.
Okay.
Kind of the Go-Go's go Nashville type of thing.
Okay.
just a lot of pep and a lot of positivity and fun and that kind of thing, and until the whole backstory of the song, and
Yeah.
hopefully that doesn't weigh in on it much, but it's just really, it's good. It's a really good song. If you could go back and give, say, your 16-year-old self a bit of advice about music, say your 16-year-old self wanted to get into music and you could go back and talk to her, what's one piece of advice you would give 16-year-old Annie about music?
To not compare myself to other people. I think, you just have to find who you are yourself, and, and just, and I think that applies to really anything in life. You need to focus on you and be the best version of you that you can be. I was competitive to a point with some of the music stuff, but at the same time, I also thought I was never good enough with some things, even though like with clarinet and things like that, like the instrument part and vocally, when I did do I was always good at it and I excelled, but I still always found somebody who was better, and then I would just beat myself up for it. So yeah, just be the best version of yourself that you can be.
Right. Now, if there were an artist, let me speak correct here. If there were an artist that's deceased, that you would actually, let me rephrase that. If you could have dinner with an artist that is deceased, who would that artist be, and what would you want to talk about?
I don't know if it would be Johnny Cash or Elvis Presley. That's a hard call. Yeah, I think, because I think just some of the documentaries and things like that I saw, I'm going to go with Johnny Cash, actually. And I know when, and I think it's just, watching his struggles in the beginning too, and just how, like people told him he wasn't going to make it and stuff like that. And then he's Johnny Cash. So yeah, no, I would just love to talk to him about his start in music, and he went through a lot of turmoil in his life, and and he just was able to put some of the things out in music too, and it's just, yeah, I don't know, there'd be so much to talk to him about. So yeah,
absolutely. And speaking of Elvis and Johnny Cash, there have been documentaries and biographies written about them. So if somebody wrote a documentary or a biography about you from growing up just outside Chicago until now and everything that's happened in between, what actress would you want to portray you?
Okay. Oh my gosh. That's a hard pick. I'm totally drawing of Jennifer Aniston, maybe. I don't know. I can't, but yeah, probably her, because she's funny and witty, and she's around the same age as me. So yeah, I'd go with her. So yeah, yeah, I'd say her.
That's a good answer. That's a good answer.
That's funk. So.
Let's go ahead and I usually ask this question at the end, but I'm going to ask it early.
Okay.
Just because we'll repeat it at the end. But where can your music be found? Where can?
Oh, okay. It's on all the streaming platforms like Spotify and YouTube and iTunes, Amazon, all the stuff. So you can find it there. And you can find info about me. I finally started a website, annievandermusic.com. So, but yeah, just all the mainstream ones, I would say. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Working the social media too, I'm sure, because that just seems to be a must.
Sorry. Facebook. I'm on Instagram. It's Annie_Vander. And Facebook is just Annie Vander. And I feel like I'm leaving something out, but I think that's. Oh, and we're actually, so you'll have to keep an eye on YouTube. I actually just got back this weekend. We finished shooting a video for Falling into Nashville. So and I'm so excited because I saw the first cut of it. So they're still working on editing it. So it's, I'm super excited.
Hey, wow, that'd be awesome to see.
Yeah.
Let's see. You're going on tour with the folks that you spoke of earlier, and you're leaving tomorrow. What are the must-haves that you're going to pack to take with you?
Oh, well, if I'm going on tour with them and I actually would have like a bus, my dog. And my dogs and somebody to take care of them, because I just wrapped up I think I was telling you before, I wrapped up a couple-week radio tour, and I thought that my husband, I have to see my husband.
Now we see where the hierarchy of importance is. I'm going to take. Oh, okay, you can come along.
I actually, it was funny. I just last night we had a dog that was in like we put her in a board train because we have a German short hair puppy, and they are so intense in energy. And even though I'm a certified dog trainer, I haven't been home, so I haven't had the time to dedicate. And she is, I love her to pieces, but oh my gosh, she is a challenge. So right before I left, she was in her little boot camp for almost 3 weeks. We took her home. I was with her for 2 days, and then I had to leave for 2 weeks. So her name is Frankie Lynn. We named her after Franklin, Tennessee. I was going through Frankie withdrawal, so yeah. So I fell asleep with her on the couch last night, and I woke up at like maybe 1:30 in the morning, and I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't lock her up. And I'm like, if she chewed my piano, or if she like, she was just asleep just further down the couch. I was like, oh, thank goodness. But so I'll say coffee and my dogs.
There you go. There you go. So, I'm looking over my questions because some of them are, I need to readjust them.
Okay.
I guess.
I have to call Keith Urban then and see if he's okay with the dogs on the bus.
Right. Well, Annie, I got bad news for you. It would be your bus, not his bus, that you would be traveling on.
Well, there's that. Nicole might have an issue with me on his bus.
Right. Just throwing that out there. I'm just saying.
That's true. So I didn't think that far ahead. So.
Now you talked about doing other music, and you're working on other music, but out of the ones that you have right now, which of those songs would you want to be most remembered for?
That's a hard call because they're both so personal to me. I feel like without my mom's example, I would not be spreading the message that I'm spreading. But I would have to say Falling into Nashville, because that is my story. 100%. Right. Not that they both aren't my story, but Falling into Nashville, I think the message that one sends is just so universal, and it really, I just want people to, like I said, find what they need to in music, and the very first radio tour I was going to do, I had to listen to the words of my own song and like really believe them. I lost my voice, 100% lost my voice.
Oh my goodness.
I had to call Nicole and people who set up the tour, and it was like, it wasn't COVID, but I felt so ill, and I was sick for like a week and a half, 2 weeks, and it was laryngitis like I have never had before, and I'm like, I can't do this. And I thought for like when I called them maybe 5 days before, I'm like, I think I'll be fine by Sunday, and I'll be able to sing by Monday. Maybe we could just do interviews, and I don't have to sing, and it just got worse and worse. So so then life knocked me down and God turned my path around. It's like, okay, I'm like, God, what do you have in store for me this week? Like, I'm not, or was I going to get in an accident on the road? And everyone was very gracious and rescheduled the interviews. And so I was very grateful for that. But it's like, okay,
right.
You know what, things are going to work out. So and they did, and it was great. And we had a blast, and that song for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Never really had to talk that out before, so yes. Thank you for making me do that.
Right. So what time of day do you normally feel most creative?
At night, for sure. I am so groggy in the morning. Like I said, coffee and my dogs. Whew, I hit that coffee pretty hard in the morning. I don't know. I feel I've always been a night owl, and I feel like I get that from my dad's mom and my dad. Like, just in the morning, I'm just oh man. So in the city, after my husband and I got married, my grandmother, she lived in a 2-flat in the city of Chicago on the north side, and walls were paper thin. We used to be able to hear the neighbors come home next, like on the other side of the gangway, I guess you would call it. There, you could literally reach your arms out and touch each house, and you would hear beep beep beep. Whoever it was worked a night shift, so we could hear them come home. But I would hear my grandma down in her kitchen in her apartment, and she's playing cards and laughing with her friends, and she's like 75, 77, 80 years old, and she's having a good old time till like 2, 3 in the morning. She just never quit. So, and my dad the same way. He would just be up all night, and but the only thing, my grandma would get up early in the morning. My dad, he gets up if he has to, but he prefers to sleep in. Sorry, Dad, if you're listening.
Right. She's not reading to rat you out there, Dad, or anything like that.
But yeah, I love him to pieces. And honestly, my dad is the one, like, I'm actually really excited. On October 7th, I'm going to go back to my high school, and I'm going to go for their homecoming game because my little niece is in her freshman year, and she's playing in the marching band, and she's so excited about it. And my dad would take me to every single band competition, solo and ensemble, whether it was marching band or choir or whatever it was, my dad was always there. So they probably shouldn't have ratted him out. But,
right.
Yeah. But I'm so excited to go back to good old Evergreen Park and actually just see it. It should be fun. So
Right.
yeah.
It sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah. But back to the original question. You notice I kind of like maybe that's the creative part of me too, but creative at night. I feel like there's like a light switch. Like my husband's like, I'm going to bed. I'm like, oh man, like in my head. And it's not that I don't want to go up there with him, but it's like I come alive, and,
right.
And I do have a song idea. I want to sit at the piano, and thank God I have headphones. I've got like this hybrid piano. It's acoustic electric, so I can literally plug headphones into it, and I have a lever on the keys where it lifts the hammers off the keys so it won't make noise, so I can just write and play away, and he can stay sleeping. So it's nice.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, lots of fun.
Let's see here. Is there a band that you listen to? And I guess they don't necessarily have to be contemporary, but a band that you listen to that you feel like just has not gotten the accolades that they should?
Gosh, I'm really bad at this stuff. I wish that there's probably actually some local bands, and I can't think of and this is terrible. I can't think of their names. I feel horrible for this, but I know I'm going to have to probably pass on that one. I can't really think.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I don't think they have some of the accolades too, like Shinedown. I know they were huge. I love Shinedown. That's a rock band. I don't hear a lot about them, but that's also not the stations that I'm listening to. But I know they're huge. I don't know, but yeah, I'm guilty of knowing more of the mainstream ones. So
Right.
yeah.
Let's see. Do you feel like that as a musician, it is more important to have a unique style to draw people, or to have to be more skillful at what you're doing in order to draw people to you?
I think a combination of both. I think you need to be polished on what you're doing. I think you need to be, and I need to remind myself of that too, to be a little bit vulnerable with some things. If David is listening now too, I know like before we finished Falling into Nashville, there was one part in the beginning. I was like, can you just tune that just a little bit? He wanted to do it completely untuned, just leave it alone. He goes, no untuned Joan Jett. And he goes, you don't need it, but I was like, I just wanted everything to be perfect,
Right.
So I feel like things need to be on point, but yeah, but you need to be unique. You need a combination of both. But I think honesty in music and your storytelling is what is really going to draw people in the most. And I know that wasn't one of the answers, but that's my true belief. And when you do that, I think that's what brings that uniqueness to it. Because no one can be better at you than you, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And the answer is all up to you. So if that's how you feel, then that's great. So as you're growing and you're working toward your goal, social media plays a big part in artists nowadays, and connecting with fans or securing new fans and stuff like that. Especially like with TikTok and all this other stuff that's going on. What do you feel like is the quickest way that you have kind of grown your fan base?
I think honestly, it's the quickest way. I feel like is when I'm actually meeting people in person. Like on the way home from the airport after the video shoot, there were 4 ladies on this shuttle back to the parking garage, and somebody goes, "Oh, that's a really cute hat you have on," and I go, "Oh, thanks," and it is this hat, that I got down in Tennessee and used it on the shoot, and I just didn't want to. I didn't have a hat box with me, and I didn't want it damaged. And it kind of became this talking point. And then I told one of the ladies, I said, "Oh, you look like you were somewhere fun. You had, I'm just a talker anyway. If you haven't noticed, I derail all the time." So, and she goes, "Yeah," and I forgot where exactly she said she went, but it was the beach somewhere, I think. And then my husband Brian chimes in, and he's like, "Oh yeah, she's climbing the Music Row chart right now, and she was down in Nashville shooting a video," and they're like, "Really?" And they go, "Are you on Instagram?" And so it's and I always have a hard time bringing, like, if I'm not in like playing somewhere or something like that, I try to just, I don't know, it just feels weird telling people randomly to me. But I feel like when you have a true connection with somebody, then somebody else is going to say, "Yeah, I met her," or like, and you really connect with them on a genuine level. Those are the ones that are going to tell people about you and your music and stuff like that. So I feel like, I don't know, and maybe that's the old school part of me, that on social media, I know you can truly make connections with people on social media. Like in my coach, it wasn't social media, but I worked with him on Zoom for a year and a half before I met him in person. So it was all online, but yeah, in person I just think is better. So anyway, I'm working it out again.
I'm definitely inclined to agree with you, especially like with writing, because I mean, I've asked artists in the past, when you co-write, are you doing it by Zoom or are you going there, or and of course, stupid question to ask right after COVID before it was even given the all clear, because most of them are saying we're Zoom writing. But a few of them have said that they've been there, and I've always asked them, what do you prefer, face to face or Zoom? And it's always face to face, because even though you can see them
Yeah.
with Zoom, there's still not that connection. I mean, there's like there's a lens that keeps that total connection from being there. And then once you meet face to face, it just kind of closes that circle, so to speak.
Yeah, for sure. And I just thought, now I'm actually going back to, my brain just went back to when you said, is there a band or artist or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
So there's two that I can think of, and I don't know why I didn't think of it, because I've met plenty of people in the industry. I think it was just the whole on the spot thing. So there's this gentleman named Nathan Picard, and he has got music out. He's one of the first people we met out in the Nashville area. He's had some music on in different movies and stuff like that. And I know his son is doing some stuff, but he's a brilliant musician. Love his stuff. And then it's somebody else who works with my publicist, Nicole, is Molly Lovett. I really like her music. So yeah. So big fan of hers. And so those will be two. So it took me a minute, but I could think of two. So.
Well, in relation to Molly, I work with it's a charity concert event, and Molly has played that event the last 3 years. So we're doing what we can to get her out to folks, and she's starting to get a little name. She's originally from St. Louis, and she's starting to get a name amongst a lot of people up there who have heard her at these concert events. And so that's really cool. And she's just a sweetheart. We love Molly to death. And so we've really gotten to know her quite well over the last few years, and spend time with her and just hang out, and
and I don't know her at all, other than I know that Nicole works with her, but I hear her music and I see her stuff, and I think her music's great. So
yeah, you need to meet her. She's a really sweet girl.
That'd be nice. It'd be cool.
Just tell Nicole, she'll set that up. That's what publicists are for. Right.
I think I saw her play. I went down because I remember when I started working with Nicole for the first time, she's like, do you want to come down and play at CMA Fest? And I was like, I'm like, I don't even have that many original songs ready to go. And it was, it was only for half an hour to play, but I was just like, oh my God. And she's like, it's okay. Don't worry about doing it just yet. But I wasn't really, first I was like, when Nicole even took me on as a client, I'm like, oh my gosh, she thinks I'm good enough, so, and again, that's that, I guess that advice that I take to my, like that 16-year-old self, just be the best version of you, right? Because if you don't have confidence in yourself, who else is going to? So, and I just remember watching all of them perform, and I remember her performance sticking out to me, and but no, I didn't get to meet her, but saw her play.
Okay. Well, when you get the opportunity, I really think you'll love her. I'll tell you a quick, interesting Molly Lovett story. The very first of these concerts we did was in 2020, right in during the pandemic. And like I said, Molly is originally from St. Louis. After the show that night, her mom and dad pull up, and they have a U-Haul trailer, and it's all packed out with Molly's stuff. After the show that night is when she moved to Nashville.
Oh, wow. Holy cow.
So she did a show, and then she drove about, I guess, 5 hours from Nashville to St. Louis. And they drove 5 hours down, and that was it.
Wow.
She was done.
Well, I could see where that, I mean, because like even with, I was in, now that the music stuff is really starting to pick up for me, after touring the last like 3-4 days, I was writing and just working on some other stuff. I played at Fox and Lock, which used to be the original Puckett's, and then, and I remember driving home because I had to be at my regular 9 to 5 job on Monday, and my guitarist had to be at his job. So I got home at about 4:30 in the morning, and all I could think in my brain is, I'm gonna just take a plane back on Friday night, But here I'm like, and I found this amazing Starbucks drink that I'm now addicted to, which is bad. It's the pumpkin cream cold brew. If any of you are wondering, it's amazing. So, not that Starbucks needs any help advertising, but it kept me awake, and it's super yummy. And yeah, but I was like, okay, I'm plowing through like a warrior, and I'm gonna get home. And then I was excited to go back to Nashville, but I'm like, you know how hard it was to drive back all the way to Chicago and just get on a plane and undo all of this.
Right.
So yeah, and then I'll be back, shortly to, go back to the studio, and I'm only gonna do the vocals for, we're gonna lay the music down for a few songs, 3 songs actually, but I'm only gonna do vocals for the first weekend, and then I'll come back again, and there's always a reason to go back, so I can see where making a move, sometimes taking the dive is. I'm not ready to do that yet, but
right.
Yeah. So I have too many friends and family here, so it would be really hard to leave.
Well, you don't necessarily have to be in Nashville to make it in Nashville, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it definitely feels like a home away from home. I mean, it's not terrible to drive down there. It's but it's a lot when you do it every couple weeks.
Oh yeah.
Or every 5 days, like I just did.
Yeah, you can't do it in a short-term repetition because it is, I mean, from Chicago, it's a long way because where I live, we're about, I think about 7.5 hours from Chicago.
Okay. Well, you're about the distance from Nashville as us then.
Yeah, we're about 4 hours to Nashville, 3.5.
Well, that's an easy day trip then.
Yeah, Nashville. I mean, we have gone down over the weekend and stayed a couple of nights and turned around and came back.
That's awesome.
It's definitely not bad on the way back because you can leave early enough. You get home at a decent time. So you can leave at 8 o'clock in the morning and be back by lunch.
Well, the only reason that I got back at 4:30 in the morning is because we were in the middle of a co-write, and I'm like, all right, we're gonna finish this. We're gonna finish this, and we did. And I'm so excited that I stayed the extra time. It was totally worth being tired, and totally worth it too because then I found that pumpkin cream cold brew. So that was just meant to happen.
And now you're going to have an intervention after cream is gone, right?
And I was thinking that just today because I've never really been like, I'm not a pumpkin spice latte girl. I'm not the whole like, oh, it's fall, I'm going to get my pumpkin drink. But this one, and it just crossed my brain. I think it literally was today when I was coming home from work. I'm like, oh my gosh, fall's going to end sooner than I think. So what am I going to do?
It's not going to be pretty, whatever it is, right?
I'll have to find another caffeine addiction.
Right. Maybe they'll put that on their hidden menu and you can just ask for it then.
Right. With every other person in the world. Do you have any pumpkin left?
Right.
I'm sure I'll figure it out, but I'll be sad for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So when are you looking to have the new music released?
Hopefully by Thanksgiving.
Okay.
I wanted to wait until I really wanted to do the co-write with David for the Christmas song. The song is going to be called King of Christmas, and it's actually about, if you can envision a crazy Griswold dad without actually calling him Mr. Griswold. It's going to be super fun and upbeat, and it's just, I don't know. Basically, everybody lets gets out of this guy's way while he goes crazy and finds the biggest tree he can find, and he's just up to all his crazy Christmas antics, and the whole town talks about him, and that's pretty much what the song's about. So, but David is a brilliant songwriter himself, so I felt honored to be able to write for the first time with him. You know, I see what he does in the studio all the time, and it just always blows my mind. And I've heard and listened to so many other songs that he's written for other people, and but his Christmas songs that he writes are just, you know, and people put it on his Facebook feed and stuff all the time. They're like, oh, you know, he's like the Christmas master. So yeah,
Right.
so, yeah. So we're getting it in the studio probably later than I wanted to, but it's worth. I think it'll be worth the wait. So.
Okay, that sounds interesting. I can't wait to hear that one. I'll be glad to see that one come out.
It's already stuck in my, like, it's an earworm, kind of like Falling into Nashville. It's probably
Uh-huh.
like, I caught myself on the way home. He was like, okay, you really need to sing it so we can like nail down exactly what key you wanted. And I'm like, oh, I've already got like it. I don't know if it's bad. I'm like, it's our song. I'm like, it's stuck in my brain. It just keeps repeating and repeating and repeating in my brain, which I guess it's a blessing and a curse. So sometimes you just need to sing it all out just to get it out of your brain and to move on to something else. But
Right.
yeah, it should be fun.
Well, I'm looking forward to that one. I always like a good Christmas song, something that's new. Not that I don't like the classics, but I like something a little new and a little fresh, you know.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that'll
that's
be
just it. I thought about doing a cover for Christmas and just like doing an Annie Vander, you know, like Spitfire kind of version of like
Mhm.
my spin on a classic song. But he's like, "What do you think about an original one?" And I'm like, "Well, heck, you know, let's do it." So we did. But there's only so many Christmas songs out there. So you know, when you
Right.
hear them again and again and again, I mean, it's great and I love it. And I am one of the people who will turn on Christmas carols early. I'll turn them on, I don't know, just sometimes even before Halloween. Um, and yeah, I don't know. I'm a Christmas nut. So, but yeah, by the end of the season, I'm like, okay, I've heard Silent Night and even the Mariah Carey songs, just all of them. You know, it's like the first Noel. It's like, okay, I'm done. As much as I love it, I'm done. So,
Right. There's only really one Christmas song that I can listen to, I don't know, 3 or 4 times in a row and it'd be okay. And I can't remember I've heard another artist do it, but Dolly Parton's Hard Candy Christmas. It's just something about that song. I think it was like my mom's favorite Christmas song, and so it's kind of carried over to me. And then somebody else did it, and I don't remember who it was. Um,
well, I'm not sure.
it's a like a current. I don't think it was Miranda, but it was like a current artist. You know, they did it, and I thought it was pretty good. But
Have to look that
yeah,
up now. I know what you
yeah, I
mean though.
think
The songs like my grandmother's favorite song was "A Little Drummer Boy," and that is not my favorite song per se, but every time I hear, like, if I don't hear it on Christmas Day or on Christmas Eve, like a day that I would have spent with her, it's like, hey, you know, like, hey Alexa, play, you know, and so
right.
it's become a favorite just because it holds that place in my heart. So
Right.
I get what you're saying.
It's more the sentimental. I mean, like I say, it's not a traditional classic type of Christmas song, you know, like Burl Ives' Holly Jolly Christmas type of thing. And
Yeah.
um, but it's one of those that, I mean, you hear it on a lot of stations when they're doing Christmas music, stations especially. You know, it's kind of like uh George Strait's Christmas cookies, you know, those are just kind of like the go-tos for Christmas for country music folk.
Yeah.
but but
But
Annie, it's been a
yeah.
joy. Yeah, it's been a joy talking to you tonight. Thanks for coming on and hanging out with me. You've been a pleasure to talk to and so fun and digging the song. Like I said, it's kind of got that Go-Go's, I guess 80s Go-Go's feel to it. So I think a lot of people will like it.
I'll take
And
that.
remind them one more time where they can find like your socials as well as the music and everything like that before we head on out of here.
Yeah, so my newest song, Falling into Nashville, you can find it on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, all the streaming platforms. You can find me on Facebook, just Annie Vander. I'm on Instagram at Annie_Vander. I'm on TikTok. I'm still getting better at it, I promise. It's at Annie_Vander too. And I have a website, AnnieVandermusic.com. So,
all right.
So thank you so much for having me. It really was a blast.
Yeah, you're welcome. Again, thanks for having on. You guys go show Annie some love and let her know how much you appreciate what she's doing. And keep an eye out for that new music, all right? So you can enjoy it as well. So, all right, Annie, take care. Everybody, we'll be back on Monday night. We got another artist to introduce to you, and we cannot wait to do that. So until then, everybody, take care.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for joining us. Be sure to follow Before Nashville on all social media and listen wherever you get your podcast. Tune in again for another country star of tomorrow on Before Nashville with George Davis. I'm Kevin Casey on behalf of Worldwide Pants. Have a great night.